intellectually process the information you're receiving, repeat it back to me and understand it.
California stays at the top of the idiot index.
I did not understand the curriculum.
I want to hop into a CNN panel discussing equitable grading. Equity, of course, is one of MAGA's least favorite words, so they definitely don't like this. So we'll discuss what it is, if it's good, and why MAGA hates it. So if you can, first leave us a like on the video, helps us a bunch in the algorithm, gives us a big boost. We really appreciate it, so leave us that like, and let's get right into the discussion.
For the millions of educators out there, they can tell you that grading equity actually does help with making sure that students understand the curriculum they're being taught. This is pedagogy lending itself to making sure comprehension matters. I will be honest, in my perspective, when I was reading about this, I spent some time at the National Education Association, so it's a policy that I'm familiar with. And when I was reading about this, I passed math. I was horrible at math. And I used to volunteer to clean the boards and clean the erasers and everything just to get extra credit to pass math. But if you ask me the square root of something, it might not work. I did not understand the curriculum, but I knew if I worked hard and appealed, then maybe I would pass. When I look at these kids post-COVID, most kids are not on reading level. They're not understanding what they're learning. And so if you can make sure, instead of giving a point system or a grade, and you can make sure, hey, I want to make sure that you can intellectually process the information you're receiving, repeat it back to me and understand it, I'm okay for that. All the AI has made it easy for kids to cheat. All the things that the Republicans are attacking, these fake culture wars, or they're attacking CRT, they're not learning.
Now, I'm still learning about different parts of this as well, but from what I know, equitable grading is essentially a method of grading meant to remove non-academic forms of bias or circumstances that could otherwise affect your grade that aren't directly tied to your academic ability. It's an attempt to teach kids at their level and to keep them consistently progressing and not held back by, I don't know, like less involved parents, not being able to make it to school for being sick, whatever it might be, by instead allowing them to be graded only on their work, not if their work is late, because maybe their parents weren't involved, whatever it is. As right now with traditional grading, we see socioeconomic status be the largest predictor of educational outcome, largely because a wealthier family, they have more resources. Education is a resource game. The more money a parent has, the more time they will have typically to be involved with their child's education, or they could pay a tutor if their job is that demanding. Equity grading would grade them at that standard, while the kid with less resources would be graded at their standards. Same expectation of work, only the outside circumstances aren't going to hold you back.
California stays at the top of the idiot index. Either you can read and do math, or you can't. That's how we advance our students. I mean, I can't believe this is such a stupid idea, and they continue to bring these things forward. No wonder it's a wasteland.
Let me tell you,
San Francisco, California is a wasteland. This is more stupidity. Somebody should put up their hand. I'm doing it right now, saying, you guys are idiots. Don't do that.
The 10 Commandments in the school. They're teaching conspiracy theories.
In Oklahoma.
That in Oklahoma, in my state, we're ranked 49th and 50th in education. We have a MAGA supermajority.
So Oklahoma and San Francisco have bad schools in common.
So
in San Francisco,
listen, I don't think that is the answer either. I just think that we need to do something about education. This generation, my youngest son just graduated from high school last week, and they were raised by cell phones.
And she's spot on here. From now being in a school firsthand, I can confirm myself what the data says and has for a long time, that how much wealth a family has, how much funding a school has, are the sole predictors in how well the students at that school will do. It's a resource game. That's literally it. Kids who are able to use technology, especially from a young age, they have calculators, they can get after school help if needed, are well fed, they have up-to-date materials in class, very like visual type learning stuff for anything they're going to need. They do very well. The kids who are left to tread water with the bare minimum fail, whether it be, they're not going to have the best lunches, they're going to be running late, they're not going to have any after school help, their school isn't going to have these visual materials to help learn. This is why red states fare so low in education. By the way, it's not like conservative curriculums. There's just more poor families in rural areas, more importantly, less valued properties in this rural area that incurs smaller tax bases to fund the schools. This leaves the families with less wealth and the schools drastically underfunded. The solution here is probably a mix of some of the equitable grading characteristics. You should probably be graded both at your level and on what you can do, not what is holding you back. But but more importantly, just fund schools properly. That's literally all we need to do. It's what the data has told us for decades.
I'm listening to Tiffany saying, okay, when I was in school, I did extra credit so I could pass math. Isn't that an argument for teaching kids not just the content, which you'll never do a square root in your adult life. So, whatever. I mean, not, yeah, okay. Me over here, I'm not doing square root.
Your daughter's gonna watch this one day, Abby.
But you're not gonna do a square root, but you do need to learn how to complete your assignments on time.
Sure,
you do
that's
need to
important.
learn how to raise your hand and answer a question. You do need to learn those things.
I just want to clarify this here because Abby's wrong and conservatives always get this wrong. None of what she's saying is the purpose of school. It's not so you can learn how to add or do work real well or follow instruction and routine or whatever, right? It's literally so you can learn how to critically think and independently problem solve. That's it. And you apply that to different aspects of your life. As she mentioned, the majority of the things you learn in school, you're never going to actually use. But what you will use is the process of critically engaging with different things you might not understand when given to you, utilizing abstract thought, and solving problems independently using those tools. These are the things that typically take a lot of guidance to learn, a lot of time, a lot of focus and involvement, of which again is why it becomes a resource game. If mom and dad have to work 60 hours a week just to afford the basic necessities of survival, they won't be able to be as involved. They won't be able to afford a tutor to be more involved. If the area the school is in is barely above or even under the threshold for poverty, it won't have enough tax revenue from the poorer properties to have its classroom staffed to the level it should be or with the resources it needs. And again, I see this firsthand. You wouldn't believe the amount of kids who are in third grade where the expectation is word problems and reading, but they're still struggling with sight words and letter sounds. And there needs to be this sort of support that poorer schools just won't be able to afford, or the resources, the visual learning. Kids at younger ages learn better visually. If schools can't afford this type of visual material to match with the, the more lecture way of teaching as you would typically see in traditional schools, they're obviously going to fare less well. These are things conservatives never think about, never talk about, because all we have to do to fix them is to better fund schools. You have to rid of private schools that, one, are cutting these corners already. You see this in private schools because profit is the biggest their biggest focus. And I see this firsthand when I go to, I'm not going to name the schools, but when I go to a prep school, a prep academy, a private institution versus when I go to a public school, the differences in terms of care on the students versus care on meeting their bottom line is crazy. But these also further just hurt public schools by pulling funding from them and adding school choice. In private schools, you're adding more schools to the pot of money, but you're not making the money any bigger, the pot of money any bigger. So it's just spreading that money thinner between every school. What you need is a bigger pot, right? And so do that and then correct socioeconomic disparities. Again, Republicans will never do this because they see education as a vehicle for profit.